What's up, everybody? Welcome to the State of Wild, episode 115, a regular YouTube video web series podcast thingy. My name is Meowth, and as usual, I'm joined with two good friends and co-hosts, Roffle and Corbett. Guys, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right, but there's no time for idle chat because we have a lot of cards to go through. A lot of new cards got revealed, and we've got to talk about them.
Yeah, we got to get through a lot of reviews. Our APM is going to have to be very high as we get through to some of these cards, so looking forward to that.
Foreshadowing.
I see what you did there. Welcome, guys, to the third 2-hour review of the 4 for the brand new set. Basic rules. We're talking about Wild, and that's it. Let's dive right into it to the class that's probably seen the least amount of play in Wild for now, and that is Demon Hunter. And let's start so all of these cards are going to be kind of in an Outcast style a package that they're pushing. So let's start with the legendary here. 4 mana 3/3, Fellerin the Forgotten. Battle Cry. Add a random Outcast card to the left and right sides of your hand. They cost 2 less.
Okay, so they're pushing I'm probably the only person on the planet that has experience playing like the Outcast archetype when they pushed it in Madness at the Darkman Fair. I got to tell you, it was not even close to being good. However, some of these new cards actually give some incentive to play it and are looking pretty good. This is probably one of them. I mean, you're getting potentially 4 mana cost reduction, and you're getting stuff slotted right into the Outcast slot. The concern that I have is that there are a lot of bad Outcast cards, and same thing that happens with any like broad card pool. As time goes on, this card will get worse and worse. So right now, there's already quite a few bad ones in Wild, probably fewer in Standard. Still, like, because of the cost reduction, might be worth a look.
Yeah, it just seems like a very good standalone card, whether it isn't this Outcast archetype, but I think it's also probably fine if there's like a Reno deck as well. Like the majority of Outcasts, look, they're not stellar cards, but something like Star Student Stelina, a 2-mana version of that is a lot better than a 4-mana version. So, like, this just feels like it's a decent amount of mana, discounting some value. I like it. It's pretty reasonable.
I mean, I think my main worry, outside of like it getting worse as time goes on in Wild, I think is there's already a couple of like situational Outcast cards. Like I'm thinking about the Silence is the one that like pops to my mind immediately, because it only silences an enemy minion, and then if you're trying to like combo off and do some of the like the combo turns with some of the cards that we're going to see here, it might make things a little bit awkward, but potentially 0 mana 3/3, right? Which, you know, can't be terrible, at least to begin with.
Yeah, and like on top of it itself generating resources for you, quite a few Outcast cards actually draw cards. Like that can't be like to Corb's point. I think it probably is just like you slam this into a Reno deck, because like Demon Hunter is hurting for 30 to 40 one-of cards in a Reno deck as it stands, so they're having to lean pretty heavily on neutrals, and class cards are of a inherently higher power level. So like, yeah, you just shove this in and it's pretty good. So yeah, I'm not as concerned about the situational ones as just like the flat out bad ones, because if I get the Silence one, like, yeah, I'm probably going to find a use for that. Worst case scenario, I just cycle it off of something, something. There are quite a few things that are just like flat out worse than that. So
yep. Important to note, by the way, that this does not need to be in an Outcast position, which is super nice for the Outcast cards.
And you could brand it. Like
you can brand it.
The brand kind of messes with the Outcast effectiveness, or like being online for the first battle cry, but like it's a lot of cards in hand.
Yeah, agreed. All right, next up, kind of one of your payoffs for playing a lot of Outcast cards is Wretched Exile. 2 mana 2/3, so decent stats. After you play an Outcast card, add a random Outcast card to your hand. So when it gets added to your hand, it gets added to the far right slot, which means it's automatically in an Outcast spot. We already have the card, the Line Hopper, I believe, which is a spider tank that says your Outcast cards cost 1 less. So potentially there's some combo potential there. It just seems like a value engine. Do you have enough gas to play it in like the Reno deck, I guess? Or cards good enough to make it kind of its own archetype?
I think I don't necessarily think this is the card that like makes it its own archetype necessarily, because this is a good value engine. It's like a Sethic Veil Weaver, right? And the Line Hopper operates as a stand-in for like a Radiant Elemental. But those cards alone did eventually win games because you generated enough cost reduction and enough like spells that eventually like pre-spell started going face. There aren't a lot of like outcast cards that go face, and you can't probably chain nearly as many outcast cards as you could low cost pre-spells. So I don't think the payoff will be there alone, but like I don't know, that was something for a period of time. People experimented with it in Wild. It was pretty good in Standard. So it could be fringe playable with enough support in Wild, but I think that the real payoff card is the card we haven't seen yet.
Yeah, I don't love the Exile. I mean, it brings back memories of World Kickmaster. But a lot of the outcast cards are somewhat expensive, so I don't really see this being great. And you kind of can't generate that much value out of it. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on then to the card that's the reason that you want to play outcast cards, and that is Vengeful Walloper, 7-mana 5/5 demon. Man, why would we play 7 mana? Because it's never 7 mana. Because it's a rush minion that says cost 1 less for each outcast card that you've played this game. If you learn one lesson for anything about Wild, it's that things that cost 0 usually equals good. And so if we can get this really, really low, it's very similar to like a thing from below, right? Stuff like that, where if you can get this low fairly early in the game, seems like a very powerful card, especially since it has rush tacked onto it.
Right. Yeah. It's not just things that cost 0 are good. That's a good starting point because yes, like a thing from below giants that costs 0 are also good, but things that cost 0 and like have immediate impact on the board with either rush, taunt, or something of the like, generally just like amplifies that even more. So if this is going to be an archetype, it's probably the result of this card, and maybe some of the cost reduction from Fellerin or the Line Hopper could help you out there. I mean, I don't know. I'd still be tempted to include a Wretched Exile if I'm building around a Walloper, but that's just because I don't know. I like random card generation. I don't know that it would necessarily be good. It might I don't know if there at the same time are enough good outcast cards that you could reliably play to get the Walloper down in time, just like naturally in your deck. So I think you might be forced into that. But like it doesn't seem like you have to activate the outcast in order to get the cost reduction either, right? So if you play middle of hand outcast, you're still good. That definitely lowers some of the requirements as well, because you can just like throw out a Sigil Runner and be okay with it.
Yeah, that helps a little bit, especially with the card that we still have to talk about, which is kind of like the type of thing where you're fine if it doesn't activate in theory. But yeah, Vengeful Walloper. I think for like this to work, right? Like to just push a really strong wild deck, it needs to be coming down on like on turn 4. And that's really hard. Because like you only have 10 mana by that point, and so it means that you have to try and play like 6 or 7 outcast cards with an average cost of like 1.5, and that is that's pretty brutal. It is possible with things like Sage, and again, this next card, which is very important. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I just don't know if there's enough cheap stuff, because we only have a handful of 1-cost outcast cards, and even with Line Hopper, I just don't think there's going to be quite enough mana cheat. But ultimately, yeah, if this is going to be a thing, it's going to be because of this card mostly. And this is just another like future building block, right? Like, this is a Matriarch, this is an Umbral Owl. Like, this is just something that it's there in the format, and as we get more support, and we naturally will, right? We're going to naturally get more outcast cards. This could be a really, really strong card in the future, and maybe we can actually get an aggro deck that makes sense. Outcast aggro? Like, sure, I'm into that.
It's also important to note that it's a demon. I don't think I ever read that when I was originally reading out the card, but that means it works really nicely with Philosophy, which is another outcast card that works. So
yeah, you're just talking about the shitty like outcast cards, and I was like, oh, they're actually mostly okay, except for that damn Philosophy off the like Wretched Exile. But yeah, it's a great call.
Yeah, and now it's a little bit less shitty because you can copy this 5/5.
Yeah, you probably just main deck it as well. Like
if you have enough other demons, maybe.
I don't think you want any. I think you just want one of these. like you want this to be your
draw one of these. Then your deck sucks because you're not drawing the.
I mean, right? If you're not drawing the payoff card, you have the problem that you're not drawing the payoff card already, right? So yeah, like you just hold the philosophy until you hit the card, and then
True.
it -1 to the cost anyway.
We keep skirting around the bush. Let's talk about the last card here then, and that is Fierce Outsider. 1 mana, 2/1 with Rush. Outcast. Your next Outcast card costs 1 less. This seems like a staple 1-drop in a lot of these, like, obviously a staple 1-drop in the Outcast decks, right? I guess the question becomes, is this just a strong enough general card, right, that you want to shove it in your arena deck, shove it in your like non-outcast aggro demon hunter? Like, is it that strong enough?
Probably not. In like, I don't know how many Outcast cards like a non-Outcast aggro deck is playing, right? Like they're not running Glide with the new minion that I've seen. Like they don't seem to have a high need for it. But in a Reno deck, like this does just seem like a pretty high quality card. One, like it's like both halves of a Spring Paw without some of the payoff for 1 mana. So like Spring Paw is pretty commonly run in a fairly aggressive Reno Hunter decks. I could see the same thing happening here. And then yeah, absolutely, it's an auto include in like the Outcast build around deck if that becomes a thing. Honestly, I saw this card and I just read it as a battle cry, and I'm like, yeah, sure, that's pretty good in the deck. Now that it's an Outcast with the Vengeful Walloper, like, yeah, that's just free mana right there. Like, and does like it's saving you actually like 2 mana on your Vengeful Walloper. Like, so that's a pretty big deal if you are able to activate it.
Yeah, this is just so important. It's going to be like these two are the best 2 cards in that archetype. Is that archetype going to be good enough? I doubt it. But we'll see. Like, this is a significant payoff along with the Walloper, so hopefully. There's also like another card that we got in Dark Moon, which I don't think anyone's going to actually remember, which is Redeemed Pariah, a 2 mana 2/3 minion that after you play an Outcast card, gain +1/+1. And so that's kind of like something that can snowball pretty hard if we're getting out multiple Outcast cards for just like 1 mana.
I remember that card. I played that card.
You're the only one. Yeah.
I know. I did preface this whole conversation with I'm the only one that's ever played. Like, it's not good, but like it's looking more and more appealing. Like, and we have some wild exclusive like incentive to do that with both the Line Hopper and the Pariah. So,
yeah. All right. So that was Outcast Demon Hunter. We are now moving into Druid, and so again, Druid has a lot of these undead synergies because they are kind of aligned with the Death Knight. We've already talked about Nerubian Flyer, so let's talk about the big legendary here. It's kind of the payoff for going wide with your undead minions, and that is a 5 mana 5/4 undead Elder Nadox. Battlecry: destroy a friendly undead. Excuse me. Your minions gain its attack. So basically, sack an undead minion. Basically buff your entire team, and then it also procs your if an undead died since your last turn cards, whatever that keyword is going to eventually be. 5 mana 5/4 Arbor Up ? Like, is this worse than Arbor Up?
Seems really bad. Yeah.
Hey, dude, it's a new legendary. I gotta try to hype it up a little bit. Come on.
So, like, one of the big concerns is the conditionality of it. Like, I haven't seen a whole lot of undead minions. Like, I've seen some good ones, but I haven't seen a whole lot of undead minions that are like, yeah, that makes me want to go all in on undead. And so with that alone, I think it's, a little bit less tempting.
I didn't even click that it was destroyed undead. I thought it was just destroy a friendly minion. And I already thought it was bad. Oh my god. Okay, this is just terrible, I think.
It's okay.
To be fair and balanced, TM, to this card. I think it was leaked, and we haven't really seen like the full package of undead cards that it's meant to be built around yet. Like, so there may be something that we're missing. And I still don't see a 5 mana payoff being the juice when we have Arbor Up in Wild, and like Arbor Up is sometimes too slow for our format. So like I don't see this being the thing that does it.
Yeah, I gotta try to gas up the legendaries. All right, they're new cards. Come on. All right, next up we have Wither, which is an epic nature spell. 2 mana. Choose a minion. Each friendly undead steals 1 attack and 1 health from it. So reverse Shadow Word Devour. Yeah, and then
Kind of like a reverse Void Doggo,
yeah,
where
that
you
too.
choose 1 minion to steal stats from it, for your whole board versus like it does the opposite.
Yeah.
But
It's ideally, I guess you're trying to hit like a 2/2, right? And then it's 2 mana, give your entire board +2/+2.
no, 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 you want to hit like an 8/8 and give your entire board
Oh, it's not
7
like
stat.
if you have a 1/1, it gives your entire team 1 attack, 1 health.
No,
No.
it'll give like 1 health,
Ugh.
like 1 minion.
Right, so you need your opponent to have a big minion. It's great into Big Priest and just about nothing else. Like it's you want early minions to steal early big minions steal stat from it and then give it to your whole board. I think it's way too situational to be like even a consideration for the format. On top of the fact that it's only buffing undead again.
God, dude, the more you read it, the worse it gets.
I love cards like that. It's
Oh
always so
God.
fun.
Yeah.
All right. Next up is a card that I like. This one for sure is not bad, right? Can't be. Lingering Zombie, 1 mana, 1/1 undead. Death Rattle, summon a 1/1 disarmed zombie with Death Rattle, summon a 1/1 zombie. So it's Possessed Villager Mecharoo Mermy on steroids, because you get 3 1/1s for the price of 1. Like, okay, if we're kind of just ignoring this whole undead synergy thing, right? Is this just strong enough for like aggressive druid archetypes? Like it's theoretically a 1 mana 3/3 that juices up the opponent's Defile, juices up your own Denathrius, and yeah.
I think it's certainly tempting. It's kind of like I mean you play Living Roots, right? So you'd probably be okay with this. The stickiness is annoying, is kind of like what aggro druid tends to want, just because it needs minions to stay on the board so that you can buff them up with like the Arbor ups, the Mark of the Lotus, and that kind of thing. So yeah, maybe, but like aggro druid sucks. Like aggro druid is not in a good place right now, so I don't think this is the card that's gonna save it without like it needs the capacity to swing the board back into its favor, and it just does not have that.
Yeah, I think this card is easy to overrate in the same way that a lot of like the 1/1 summon a thing, like the, what's it called, Baddie Guest and Hunter. What was another one which I think was easy to overrate, just because it's not putting any pressure on by itself. But like you said, stickiness in Druid good, because that's a deck that definitely needs to like have complete and dominant control over the board, so that's promising. I am very hype about trying Undertaker with this, because it's very powerful card with Undertaker, where you can even like lead with this and then trade with the Undertaker. Like that way, like you can, like you don't need to preload the Undertaker if you think it's gonna die, and that way you can get the buff immediately. So that's really good. And yeah, there's a few other Death Rattles as well that we're gonna get to the neutral pool. That we might try it. We might try something like that in Aggro Druid, but yeah.
Yeah,
Like I said, it's easy to overrate because it's so tempting to look at this and be like, oh, 1 mana 3/3. No, 1/1s are not 3/3s.
Right. And yeah, I think that there are bound to be more undead for both Druid and like just this expansion. Potentially the mini set as well. So like yeah, Undertaker's probably a good look. He's, I'm sure, himself an undead. So like maybe they're, but we haven't seen again the full release of this. We talked about how important for Nerubian Flyer getting undeads on turn 1 would be. So I mean, maybe.
I could see like an Oracle of Elune, Undertaker, Leper Gnome, Lingering Zombie style of deck. Maybe some Haunted Creepers in there too, just for nostalgia's sake. All right, last but not least for Druid, we have Unending Swarm. 6 mana spell, resurrect all friendly minions that cost 2 or less. So Flipper Friends on 5, into Unending Swarm on 6, into Scale of Onyxia on 7. Sounds good. Second Spreading Plague.
Yeah,
I'm thinking about it just like in the slow druids, but I don't know if that has like other applications.
No, I think you would only run a 6 mana card in a slow druid. Like 6 mana is inherently slow in wild, so like yeah, it's probably only going to be in those decks. I think you would probably I think people have been shying away from Spreading Plague for a while now, and I think this would make your Spreading Plague even worse as an inclusion, just because there will be like it will crowd the rush minion slots, right? Like this, you get so much juice out of, especially if you don't hit your Floop Scoop the first time, or you don't have enough mana, so you're like coining a scale on 7 or on 6. You don't have the Floop Scoop. The next turn you go Floop Scoop back into those scales with the Unending Swarm. Now that said, this card is not like copies of Scale of Onyxia and Flipper Friends number 3 and 4, because like you still have to draw those cards ahead of time, and it's completely dead up until that point. But Druid has so much card draw and so much card movement. It has like the Moonlit Guidance, Aquatic Form. It can probably carry a card that does nothing until it's active for a period of time, when the thing that it does is as powerful as another copy of Scale of Onyxia would be in that deck. So I could very well see it in like the Denathrius type decks, the Druid version or Dragon version or not. I think those are the more successful builds of Druid right now. So yeah, I mean, I can see it.
Interesting. I have a completely different perspective on you guys. On this card, where I see this purely as like an aggro card. Not interested in slow stuff. Where I'm kind of looking at it, and I know 6 mana is a lot. Like 6 mana is a lot in Wild, but 6 mana for a full board is kind of crazy. Like it's so much reload. We're talking about like 2 1/3 Call to Arms, like for 2 extra mana. If you kind of like have, assuming that you build a deck in a way that you're more likely to get things like Crab Rider, Weblord, some like relatively high powered 2-drops. You only need like a few of those and a whole bunch of ones, and it's kind of like an incredibly threatening reload tool, especially with Druid always having the threat of like wide board buffs and things like that. The idea of Undertaker is very funny, where I think it'll work like this, where if Undertaker's like one of the first 2 or 3 minions summoned, then it'll just get buffed all the way if you keep getting death rattles. So that's like a thought. Treant decks, like things like the Whispering Woods decks, the Go Wide token decks, like this is just another full board reload like that with Glowfly. So I'm thinking about it in a completely different direction. And yeah, like I said, it's a lot of mana, but I can't imagine a control deck is super happy if they go like Defile and then the opponent just rips off an Unending Swarm to completely reload. So
Yeah,
I don't know. I think this is a card that might. I think it's so powerful. It's like it's worth heavily considering like how you're building your deck and giving it a shot, because like I said, it's so many bodies for this one card.
another consideration could be like Taunt Druid for Razor Marine Battle Guards coming back, and then your opponent picks off the taunts, and then you just like vomit another board full of taunts into play. But I think the Undertaker is maybe a good look for this as well. The concern I have once again is that like aggro Druid just kind of sucks right now. So that, I think that overall, this is potentially a good card in that type of deck, but like this still, unless you're getting a bunch of Crab Riders, isn't going to swing the board back into your favor.
Oh, something that I should mention as well, if you are going to go for the slow direction, there is kind of like the funny synergy with Strongman, where if you get the Strongman down first, you can get it back as a cost 0. So that's a cute one.
The aggro is interesting. I can see it as the top end of your like Leper Gnome deck or Undertaker Leper Gnome style deck. I think I'd be more interested in it post rotation once we get Battle Guard back, and then try the taunt version.
Like I said, unsure because 6 mana is ridiculous, but full board is full board.
I mean, I think if you can stretch the curve of aggro with powerful cards like this, then that's good, right? Like that's this is the kind of card that you're okay pushing to 6 or playing it because it's 6 mana because it's that powerful. I can see it. All right, let's move into Mage. Do you want to start with Corb's favorite card first, even though it's not the legendary?
I mean, I wish it were a legendary.
Apprentice is back, baby. 2 mana, 3/2. Your arcane spells cost 1 less. 2 mana, 3/2 too. Corb is truly back.
No, she'll never be back, Meowth, because she was very special, just the way she was. But this is a pretty good impression. Like, it's not perfect. And Mage has had a lot of a lot of other cards nerfed. Like Flow is still gone, Direct is gone now. But look, Mana Cheat is Mana Cheat, and I'm very very excited to try out the Magister's Apprentice because you still have things like Biscuit. You still have things like Glyph and all these little arcane bolts that are floating around and Evocation. So, I don't know if this is like an APM mage card. I think it's more likely to be a Mizaki mage or something like that. But we shall see.
I mean, have you taken a look at some of the some of the cards of it? Like you have Siphon Mana at Arcane. Like most of the spells that you were playing in like a wanker mage, other than like the two big hits, are the fire spell and the frost spell at 1 mana. Twin Flame or First Flame. That's the one.
Yeah.
First Flame and Ray of Frost. Those are really big hits because those gave you the opportunity to potentially like, tempo an Apprentice or Waker turn to set up for the following turn, and you just can't really do that anymore. But there are a lot of really good like Research Project is arcane, Primordial Glyph is arcane, Magic Trick is arcane. A lot of the card, like you said, Evocation is. A lot of the cards that you were playing to begin with are pretty good. And Biscuit is arcane, like you mentioned. So like most of what was there remains intact. But you could be right that like maybe it is just gonna bring back Mizaki more than like a Waker APM Mage, because especially like chewing through 40 is a tough ask for that deck. A little bit less so with Mizaki, and then you just finish with like an Arcane Bolt to the face. So that seems pretty good. Like, yeah, you might be right, but like the spell pool is absolutely there to juice a Magister's Apprentice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the other one that you kind of lose though is the Hot Streak Molten Reflection, which was kind of like something that helped bring APM Mage back, and not having that level of mana cheat is definitely a bit painful.
Yeah, I'm already starting my Apprentice to 4 petition though, regardless of how good she is. All right, alongside Magister's Apprentice, we have a new worm to go alongside it. 1 mana 1/2 Arcane Worm Battlecry. Add an Arcane Bolt to your hand. Just a reminder, the Arcane Bolt is the 1 mana deal 2, Mana Thirst 8, deal 3 instead. So basically the Arcane Shot, ideally in most of your games. So 1 mana 1/2, add an Arcane Shot to your hand. Arcane Shot that gets discounted by Magister's Apprentice. Seems pretty good.
Yeah, I mean this is just 3rd and 4th copies of Arcane Bolt in your deck if you're playing an Apprentice deck, right? So like if you're building around arcane spells, whether it's Mizaki, Waker, or what have you, I think you probably just throw this in. You don't really have minion fetch, so it's not like, unless you're concerned about refreshing Springwater, which you keep this in your mulligan anyway. So I don't know if that's as big of a hit. I'm not sure why you wouldn't just go ahead and throw this in.
Yeah, I mean, I mostly just look at this and I'm like, oh, it's Quest Mage. It's just a Quest Mage card.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry to ruin that for anyone.
That's fair. Yeah, I can see it too. No.
I mean, Quest Mage is already, like, I don't think this is a card that moves the needle all that much on Quest Mage. It's so matchup dependent that that's like what changes its viability.
Yeah, but it is good.
Very, very efficient card though. Like, it's so flexible. Like, really good. I think it's not good enough for Secret Mage. I don't think this is the missing one drop, but it's not that far away. Like, I think you'd play this in Reno Mage.
Yeah, especially like a LPG where you don't have a lot of early removal spells.
Yeah. All right. Speak about a little bit less flexible. We have Arc Splitter, 3 mana, 3/2, Death Rattle. Add 2 Arcane Bolts to your hand. If you decide to run this in Mizaki Mage, you can use this first one to kill this one, and then get 2 more that are all 0 mana. It's a Death Rattle. It's 3 mana for a 3/2 body. Even in something like Mizaki Mage, like, I guess, is this another Quest Mage card?
I don't even know there because like Death Rattle is so much slower than Battlecry. Like the difference time and time again just like revealed itself to be just night and day. And yeah, you are getting double them, but like silence happens, the opponent just ignores it. Like it has to die. Like, and who knows when that'll happen or if it'll happen.
Yeah, I don't love this one. I think it's a bit more suited to any standard combo stuff that's going on over there.
Gotcha. All right. Now, I love how we started with the common and they just kind of worked our way up. So we got the legendary, which is Vexilus. 5 mana, 3/5 elemental. Your arcane spells cast twice. So you play this, play a biscuit. It'll trigger twice. You get 2 refreshes. Well, you get.
Oh wait, yeah.
You'll get 2 of the biscuits. The biscuits themselves won't proc twice,
Yeah.
but you'll get 2 biscuits. You get 2 research projects. You get 2 arcane intellects. You get 2 arcane bolts. You get 2 arcane missiles. So this kind of seems like the standard win condition for Mazaki Mage, right? Since they no longer have Mazaki. I guess the question is there like a world where this is ever better than Mazaki, or is there a reason to build around this and make it its own deck?
I don't think so. Like there is a number of arcane bolts that you could generate that would be better off of Vexilus than like Mazaki, right? Like, are there?
You would
Maybe
need
not,
20
because-
arcane bolts, right?
No,
Still.
because like
No, each one
yeah,
does 4.
exactly.
You need 10.
Yeah, no, that's not even true, right? Like the only benefit in Wild at least is that we do have elemental evocation, but like, is that really changing things all that much? Like,
It might have just changed the needle for Corb.
I mean, I guess you could hit it twice and it costs 1 mana, but then you're really gonna need those research projects when he comes down. So yeah, like that would be the reason is elemental evocation. I believe the mage quest reward is also an arcane spell, but like we already have Vargoth, and that's not really been a thing for a while. We have Parrot, and extra turns is not the limiting factor for quest mage once again. So yeah, I think that like elemental evocation, I guess, would be the sole reason to consider this card over a Mazaki. I don't know if that's going to be important enough to matter because, like, realistically, with the way that you could potentially build this deck, I think you could combo pretty reliably on 7 mana with just like Mazaki, a single apprentice. Like, I don't think you need much more than that to find yourself a lethal with just like a few arcane bolts and a few other spells. You might, need a siphon mana in there somewhere to ensure that you can play like the your draw spells, but after Corb mentioned Mazaki, it's like I don't know, that's looking more and more appealing to me. But I don't know, like again, there are a lot of pretty good 1 mana arcane spells. Unfortunately, very few of them actually go face.
Yeah, right. Because like even if you get this out, it's faster. How do you actually kill the opponent? Yeah, I don't think there's probably enough damage like lying around in the format, and like you probably can't get enough card draw. I mean, I guess if you get double, even if you get like double apprentice down, right? Like you double Evo this, you play this for 1, you get double apprentice down. You need to be able to like churn through your entire deck basically, and you have research project, but then like the intellects are going to cost mana. And there's not other draw sources beyond that, as far as like
there's Evo Finley. There's there's
right.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, so you're like even if you are cheating out all the mana in the world, you probably just don't have enough resources to make it worthwhile. So it does seem like Mazaki's going to be a better. But I honestly just forgot about Elemental Evo. And so, long term, I think this is interesting. I did think that the Conj Mana Biscuit, I thought that the second part was Arcane, which it isn't. and then I was more excited because I'm like, oh my god, that's so much mana.
That's literally
Sad.
infinite mana. Oh my god.
Literally infinite.
Literally infinite.
Yeah.
God, that would be gross if each biscuit restored 4 mana instead of 2. Ooh, God. All right. Well, so we all know that Corb's gonna be theorycrafting some mage and playing some mage, playing with his new best friend in Magister's Apprentice. We'll see what else he ends up playing in mage. All right. So let's move on to Paladin. Dragon Paladin seems to be kind of the new fancy thing alongside kind of the good Paladin cards. Starting off with Anachronos, 7 mana, 8/8 dragon. Battlecry, send all other minions 2 turns into the future. So for those of you as confused as I was when I first read this text, basically what it does is it poofs the minions. No death rattles or anything like that. If you guys are magic nerds like me, it's basically phasing. It phases the creatures out for 2 turns, and they'll come back at the beginning of your turn, 2 turns later. So no death rattles, no nothing like that. 7 mana, 8/8 dragon with Battlecry. Send poof all minions 2 turns. By yourself 2 turns. Playing it as a 7 mana 8/8 does not seem worth it. Like, does it? It's 7 mana. It's not even like twisting nether, right? Because the things come back and then your opponents get to attack with them first. So I don't know. Is that good enough to just like straight up run on its own if you're not trying to do combo stuff?
Yeah, if you're playing Arena Paladin, like your goal is generally just to get them, and if they get ahead on board, you can't really get them that well, and so like, you know, it allows you to set up in the turns that the opponent's minions are gone. If they develop, that could create board space issues when they phase back in. So like, I don't know. I think it's just pretty good. It's a vanish that develops in 8/8. Like, does it need to be much better than that? That's good for Arena Paladin. IMO.
Yeah, I think it's fine in Arena Paladin. You also get to like plan it, right? Like you get 2 turns to kind of get your shit together, basically, to like go shower, you know, pick up some city tax, a nice barrel, and plan around things. So that's good.
Yeah, and you know exactly what's going to come back, so you, like it shouldn't be no surprise. So, like you said, you can prepare for it. I think it's just fine.
Maybe I'm overvaluing how impactful like the minions coming back is. Maybe buying yourself 2 turns in order to just like reno the next turn and then deal with it later.
Even just like a carry the next turn, that's going to cut that board in half by the time it comes back. Like, I think it's a good card.
Yeah, fair point. Okay, definitely underestimated then. A little bit sad though that it's going to make the what is it, the 2 mana 2/3 Murloc even less consistent than it is now, because it's already like I'm already running like a Nixies and stuff, and now we're adding another dragon, make it even less likely that we have the Naz on 4. But I guess it's fine, right?
I'm gonna go on record here and say that like I think Dragon Paladin wasn't that far off. Like it just did like the same thing that Reno Paladin does, but with like slightly different beaters. Like Dragon Speaker gives a lot of stats, and what the deck was missing is just like more low cost early game minions and like ways to generate cards, as well as like, you know, cards like Anachronos, which gives you a little bit more of a payoff than just like dumping stats. But like, I know I play it like fairly dumpster ranks, but I won a lot of games with Dragon Paladin recently, and it felt so cool. And like, legitimately, Dragon Speaker could be a card to take a look at as we get more and more like decent dragons.
Well, last time Roffle recommended a Paladin deck, he found even Paladin, so this has got me thinking.
I'm not saying it's going to be the next meta breaker. It's not going to be on the caliber of even Paladin for sure, but like I think it's worth at least like toying around with these new cards. I think like you're not going to shoot up the legend ranks for sure, but you can definitely climb a bit with it. Is going to be my prediction.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. Next dragon support piece that maybe finds its way into that deck, which is Time Warden. 4 mana 3/5 dragon. Battle cry. Until the end of your next turn, dragons you summon gain taunt and divine shield. So basically, it will not give the dragons that are already on the board taunt and divine shield. You basically play this as a 4 mana 3/5, and then next turn you summon, ideally, like 2 or 3 dragons, give them taunt, divine shield, right? It's one of those setup pieces, not kind of like immediate payoffs or strong piece on its own on turn 4.
Yeah. This one is a little bit underwhelming by comparison, just because, like, you know, the way that the deck wants to play is like how Paladin has honestly always played, is just like play thing on curve, that thing good, and then move on to your next turn. So there's not a lot of room for like setting up big turns with a Time Warden. But that said, like, Minibot was a good card, and having like your choice of a 5-drop turn into a Minibot 5-drop is kind of okay. Like, you know, it's fine. Like, yeah, you can do what is it, Frizz stuff with this, and then maybe set up a future turn. But like, the thing about playing Frizz is that you never draw Frizz when you need her, because she's a one of and what is likely a 40 card deck. So like, playing around that is not realistic. I don't think that this is a realistic card to get a whole lot of payoff on, other than just maybe 1 minion.
Yeah, I don't love this one. Hard to go super wide. It's so low impact. It is kind of funny with Onyxia. Like, that's the one thing where all those whelps get the Divine Shield taught. So maybe after you Noz, it's so easy. Just play this and next turn Onyxia. But apart from that, I'm not really seeing anything that makes me too excited about this one.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there's like the 3 mana, 3 mana 2/3 summon 2 dragons. If you're holding a dragon, gets a lot better if you play it with this. Yeah, off the top of my mind, it's not super exciting. Moving on to the next card, dragon related. That is Flight of the Bronze, 1 mana, discover a dragon. Mana thirst 7, so if you have 7 mana when you cast this card, you will also summon a 5/5 Drake with Taunt. It's a 5 mana dragon, 5/5 dragon with Taunt. We have the 3 mana 2/3 that does this. That is also a dragon, right? In Paladin. Am I making things up?
I don't know.
I don't know what card you're talking about.
Yeah, I swear to you, there's a Paladin card that's a 3 mana 2/3 dragon that discovers a dragon.
The little
Bronze
emeralds. I
Explorer.
thought you were talking about. Yeah, I thought you were talking about the summon part.
So did I, because that's the part I care about, is the summon part.
My bad. It was the 3 mana 2/3 that discovers the dragon.
I think it is, Bronze Break.
So you don't get the 2/3, but you get to play this early in the game. Find yourself another Time Warden or Anachronos or something, and then late game, it's not terrible. Top deck, because not only do you get the dragon, but you also get the 5/5 with it. Just kind of seems like a shoe-in for like the slow Reno builds that are built around dragon synergy, right? Corb's giving me a look. Maybe it's not a shoe-in.
I don't know about shoe-in on this one.
You're playing a 40-card dragon deck, right? Like, it has to be good enough, right? Sure.
There's a lot of bad dragons out there. Like, you need this on turn 7 or 7 mana or up. The funny thing about these cards is that they're all screaming out, play Noz on 4. But because they're all dragons, it means that you can't consistently tutor Noz on 4. So I'm not sure how that works.
Yeah. No, that is kind of a big deal. But I don't know. I think if you're building around dragons, you at least consider this. Like, Mana Thirst is a little bit difficult to evaluate right now, having not like had in-game experience with it, because you probably really do want that Mana Thirst active. And the real thing is that, like, it actually becomes like a card that's better to top deck late in the game, because not only does it give you the value of the 5/5, but that's when you really can afford to play a lot of the dragons that you're going to be discovering anyway. So it's definitely not a card you keep in your mulligan. I don't know. It could be a card you put in your deck, though.
Yeah, it turns on all your early, like, all the old Paladin cards that say, like, if you're holding a dragon, do this, right? Turns on the 2 mana 2/2 Divine Shield Taunt. Turns on the Templar 3 mana 4/5, things like that. So that's also another potential merit there. Last dragon synergy piece is Daring Drake, 4 mana 4/4 rush, Battlecry. If you're holding a dragon, gain +1/+1.
Pretty good. Like,
4 mana 5/5 with rush. We don't play that card in Warrior. 4 mana 5/5 with rush is like nowhere good enough, right?
What?
The
Warrior.
2/5 that gains +3 attack has rush. Am I making more cards up?
I don't know. Clearly,
Rush
it
Commander?
doesn't see play
No,
if I.
Militia Commander?
Yeah, that one.
Oh, but that's only for a turn. Like this keeps the stats, right? And it gets buffed by Dragon Speaker, so it's actually a 4 mana 8/8 with rush.
Hand buff Dragon Paladin. Here we go. The return.
I'm telling you.
I don't know. I'm not a believer in these slightly above curve cards. I'll have to see it to believe it, I think.
All right. So now pivoting to the other Paladin cards. Paladin's the only class that we've gotten all of the 10 cards. We're moving back into the Blood Elves, starting with Blood Crusader. 6 mana 5/5. Battle Cry. Your next Paladin minion this turn cost health instead of mana. Those are some really scary lines of text. Health instead of mana. The limiting factors, Paladin minion this turn, right? Those are kind of the two big things. So you're looking at Paladin minions, you're looking at stuff like Tyrion, you're looking at stuff like the 8 mana 8/8 with rush that whenever it attacks, you summon a 5/5. You're looking at stuff like Rag Lightlord, right? So pay the 8 life, immediately gain the 8 life back. Or you're looking at stuff like what's his face? The dragon. Brasswing.
I think Brasswing is absolutely like the best option of those. Coincidentally, is itself a dragon, might I mention. But early Hearthstone, Paladin minions and Paladin legendaries in particular were like best of the best. Like Tyrion in particular. There's a reason that Zeph offers them so frequently. That is just not the case anymore, man. Like there are some really bad high-end Paladin cards, and you really probably want to be aiming for like 10 mana if you're going to be adding 2 copies of Blood Crusader in your deck. Otherwise, like, what, you're cheating the curve by 2? That's not wild. Like, a free 5/5 is fine on turn 6, but you really need something that you're hitting a big payoff on. And like the best thing I can think of is a Brasswing. I don't know if you're playing pure Paladin, you can hit a Uriel, but like
free Countess in your pure Paladin.
Then you're playing Uriel in your deck, or the Countess. Like so, I just probably not this card. I don't think it does enough for our format.
Yeah, I think it's probably not good enough, but I am very intrigued. I like mana cheating. I don't like that you can't play it in Weblord decks consistently, so that kind of sucks. I do like that Order in the Court makes it hyper consistent. That's really good. So maybe you do the Blood Crusader thing with Leviathan and Kangor's Endless Army, and that way, like, turn 6, you just drop 2 5/5s. Because it can summon itself. And the Leviathan. And then if they kill that, you just have the Kangors. And that's like a very nice like turn 6, turn 7 type curve. And you have Cariel as well on turn 8 every time. So yeah, I don't know. That's probably like the best thing that I can think of for this to do. And again, means that you're not playing Weblord, which is confusing. But for the future, perhaps.
Yeah,
for the future. Once we get some weird, crazy 10 drops and stuff, then yeah.
Yeah, Roffle mentioned not good enough for our format yet, right? One day, something will get printed that you're just like, wow, I can play this on turn 6 instead of turn 10? And you kind of just like game-winning style of thing, right?
Talk to me
like
when
I said,
do that on turn 3, like Big Priest does.
True. Yeah, I mean, the Order on the Court is also like so huge for this.
So you go like Order in the Court on 2. By the time you get to 6, you've drawn both of these plus your 2 7 drops, and then do the thing. Yeah, I can see it. I wish it just said like, how different would it be if it said like your next Paladin card this turn? And
It'd be
you get,
very
like, Cariel down on 6, or you get Anything Can Happen down on 6, or do stuff like that.
Yeah, Anything Can Happen might be kind of nasty.
I feel like there are already ways to cheat those though, just with a prismatic lens. Like,
But
if
like more ways to do it.
And you get to play like Call to Arms in that deck now.
Instead of yeah. I think it obviously would be much better if it said any paladin card, but like I kind of wish it did say any paladin card.
Oh,
Then you
turn
could,
6 Carriel. That's exciting.
Yeah, no, that's the thing that I would
Right.
be concerned
Yeah.
about doing is the turn 6 carry out. That's what.
Yeah.
if only. All right, next up we have our one drop for kind of our blood elf thing, and that is Sanguine Soldier, 1 mana 2/1 Divine Shield. Battlecry, deal 2 damage to your own hero. So it's Cobalt Librarian, but instead of drawing a card, it's got Divine Shield. Ready to accept all the buffs like for Kel'Thuzad that we talked about last time, or your Blessing and Mites and things like that. So 1 mana 2/1 Divine Shield, Battlecry, deal 2 to your hero. Good enough for aggro paladin.
Yeah, the concern is that it further dilutes the call to arms pool. So like that's what gives me hesitation. I think you probably shove it into an odd paladin though. And then you at least take a look at it for like a call to arms paladin, just because of like what you said, the being able to buff it is like a Hand of Adal, and this is pretty nasty.
Yeah, this card's great. The only issue I have again is Battlecry. But because there's 1 mana, it's a little bit like less of a concern because you can always go under the Weblord, or like if you need to play this on turn 3, then it's not as offensive. But yeah, Battlecries are always scary. I'm not too worried about Call to Arms because like this is basically a mini bot. Like it's fine. So yeah.
All right. Next up, we have Feast and Famine. 1 mana spell. Give your hero +3 attack this turn. Mana Thirst 4 and Lifesteal. It is not a holy spell. And does not target a minion, so it does not get copied with the 2-drop. This is a lot less exciting to me than 4 Kel'Thuzad, even though it is half the mana. It's 1 mana +3 this turn.
I mean, the main appeal for 4 Kel'Thuzad for me is that you're giving the minion the buff. Like that, especially with Divine Shield being a possibility and so frequent in Paladin, that like that's the good thing. That like the plus attack to your hero is just kind of a little bit of an extra. Like I'm not as hyped on that. So yeah, I don't really see this being a card.
I'm not sure. Like, I don't think it's gonna be a thing, but I don't know. Like pre-nerf Rockbiter that can only hit your own hero helps super aggro. Like I think is this good in like Odd Paladin? Like I think this is a good Odd Paladin card because it's damage and efficient board control. Whereas you don't have a ton of other stuff to like deal with a coined ship's cannon or something. Like I don't know. This seems pretty efficient. But you guys seem skeptical.
It's just so inflexible. I feel like is my main issue with it, right? Like at least in Shaman with the Rockbiter that can only target your own minion or like your face, like you had synergy with it, right? Like you had stuff like Doomhammer, you had things like that. Like we're just playing it as a way to kill ship's cannon. It's like the primary thing.
Or go
here.
face. Like it can go face.
But it's not making dudes, and dudes hit face harder.
Yeah, but if it just smooths out the curve, like 1 mana kill something, like a three attack for 1 mana, it's pretty good. And it can also go face if it needs to go face.
All right, I'm not gonna play the Odd Paladin to test and find out if it's good enough, but I wouldn't be surprised if it made its way in. That's all I'll say. I understand your argument. I can see it. Again, I'm not going to play too much of it to try it out. But last but not least, we have Seal of Blood, 3 mana holy spell. Give a minion +3/+3 and Divine Shield. Deal 3 damage to your hero. So we have something similar in Seal of Champions, right? Which was +3 attack and Divine Shield. You get the 3 health at the cost of 3 damage to your hero.
Yeah,
Holy crap!
Give me that. Yeah, yeah. Not only that, it is a holy spell.
Yeah.
So I think that like Katori payoffs are cute and whatnot. Not really something that you build around, but like what interests me about holy spells is the Order in the Court into Garden's Grace. The higher density of holy spells you get, the better off that becomes, and that becomes real nasty because you get like I think we talked about this last time we talked about Paladin cards, but like even if you pay a little bit of mana for the first Garden's Grace, that immediately makes the second one free, and you draw them together with Order in the Court guaranteed, and it's gross. So like, yeah, I think that like in an aggressive deck like that, in your Call to Arms Paladin, you're probably just looking at an Order in the Court Garden's Grace top end if you can get enough holy spells in there.
Yeah, this card's filthy. Like Seal of Champions was already close, man. Like it was right there, because of Crab Rider, and for an extra, like you just get 3 health for like nothing basically. There's gonna be a whole lot of Crab Rider sticking on 2 and killing people on 4, I think, which I'm a fan of. So
when do we stop calling it Call to Arms Paladin and just start calling it Crab Rider Paladin? Because honestly, like that's what it is, right?
Well, sometimes it's Weblord Paladin.
Right.
It's crabs and weeb.
But to be honest, we probably should have done that as soon as Grab Rider was unnerved. is the answer to that question.
Yeah, between this and for Kael'Thalas, and even like to a lesser extent Bled Matriarch Liadrin, like Aggro Paladin got some juicy tools here. Like I don't even know if you'd even need to run Order in the Court for your Garden's Graces, because like you just like run Divine Favor, run Hand of Adults, like you'll get there in an Aggro Paladin deck. But like Aggro Paladin's already, I think, really close. Like it is competitive in like High Legend, and like with it getting a bunch of these tools, like it might go back to being like OG Aggro Paladin kind of levels. And by OG I mean I guess like when Call to Arms originally got printed with Quarter Keeper and stuff, like levels are good.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this was just the expansion Secret Mage, even Shaman. Just like previous deck with a shell, and all of a sudden you get 5 cards, and it's like, oh, cool. Now we have like a tier 2 deck at minimum.
Yeah.
The Paladin enthusiast in me is excited. I'm excited to play a lot of crabs, and then I'm excited to just get them all eaten by Zeph and the Hungry Crab. Moving into Shaman here, we got some more Murlocs. Rockgill is our legendary here. 5 mana, 3/6, Undead Murloc. Battle Cry, give your other minions. Death Rattle, give your minions +1/+1. What a weird text box. But basically, make a wide board, you play Rockgill. Rockgill will give all of your other creatures, when they die, buff your board. Not Rockgill himself, which is weird because it says give your other minions. You're playing this in like a tokeny base Shaman deck. I'm imagining it probably fits with the card that we were excited about, the 4 or 5 mana card that makes 3/3s for each spell school you've played this game. It's kind of going in a shell like that with maybe some piranhas and schooling in standard. Not really sure kind of where the home is in Wild though.
Yeah, this feels like more of an undead card than a Murloc card. Because I don't think that, well, maybe with Clownfish and Scargill, like maybe a Murloc Shaman could consider including this. Like, I was surprised that they end up including the Gorlock Ravager, and that ended up being really good because of those mostly Clownfish being able to reduce their cost. So maybe you consider it there as well. Feels like it wants to be a Druid card so bad though. Like with some of the undeads that we've seen in Druid, and maybe that's just my bias. Is this a good enough payoff? It feels like, I don't know, it kind of feels like a Bloodlust 2.0 where it's like, if you're winning the board by that much, shouldn't you be winning the game already?
I think it's close in Murloc Shaman, but I'm not in love with it either. Like, I'm with you on that. Yeah, why? I mean, what if we just made it an even cost card? What if we just pretend?
You can pretend all you want. Pretend like it's even cost. Put in your even Shaman. Let's play on ladder. Let's do that.
All right. New idea. What if we just played in Totem Shaman? Guys, Totem Shaman is the nuts. You get to play so many cool odd costs. No, okay, fair enough. Unlucky.
Props for trying, right? I tried to do that with the Druid Legendary. You tried to do it with the Shaman one. I got you. I appreciate it. All right. So just kind of a heads up. Lots of Death Rattle support for Shaman, which is a little bit weird. Kind of the new thing. Just like Druid kind of got the random Death Rattle support last expansion. Now Shaman's getting some random Death Rattle support. But we've got the Scourge Troll. 1 mana, 1/3 undead minion. Death Rattle's given to this minion. Triggered twice. Actually super interesting text box. Synergizes obviously with a Rockgill. Has synergy with Deathweaver Aura, which we talked about before, which gives your minion like Death Rattle summon 2/3/2 zombies. So curve this into this, and then it dies, and all of a sudden you have 4/3/2 zombies on turn 2 or turn 3, which kind of sounds hot. So it's got what I feel like is a very powerful text box. I just, given that we're going to have one expansion of support for Death Rattle Shaman, I'm really wondering like how much we can actually abuse this.
I'm also wondering like how good the Death Rattles would have to be for this to be worth, because this is a very fragile card. Yes, it's 1 mana, so it's inexpensive, but like you combine the fact that like it dies so easily, and like Death Rattles are already like a fairly fragile thing to build around with the potential of mass silence, how cheap it is with like a shard in particular comes to mind. Like I don't think the deck archetype can ever be good just because of like the ease at which you can just throw Starfish in there. And I think that may even potentially include standard. I think this is just I may come to regret this, but I think this is like this archetype is just DOA just because like the existence of those cards both in wild and standard right now.
Yeah, I don't think Starfish is like a concern for me. Like I don't think like the tech card's existence stops the powerful thing from being powerful. So like that isn't the big issue, but I'm also not a believer in the archetype. Like I'm just imagining this archetype, except you go second, and the Ghost Troll doesn't stick, and then you immediately concede. That would be bad. So yeah, I just have no faith in this. Like, I just don't think it got enough. There's not an existing infrastructure for this archetype whatsoever. I just no faith whatsoever.
Yeah, because there's no existing infrastructure, you're relying purely on what's happening in this expansion, right? In standard, yeah. And so already kind of there. I would be excited as somebody who enjoys playing Shaman, and I think Scourge Troll is going to be one of those cards that if they keep printing support, this card's going to be like nutty busted one day. All right, like that's just how powerful the text line potentially is. Yeah, we'll see. So next up we have Shadow. What is this word? Shadow Suffusion. 3 mana shadow spell. Give your minions Death Rattle. Deal 3 damage to a random enemy. So obviously enemy minions and enemy face. So like when they clear your board, then they are now taking like 15 damage, which is in theory like awesome. In reality,
No, this seems like the worst card I've seen in this expansion so far.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I did make sure to say in theory, right?
They don't even go face. Like if it just went face only, like it can hit minions.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we have Unliving Champion. I believe we haven't talked about this one yet. 3 mana, 3/2. We talked about the Deathweaver Aura. We didn't talk about this one, right?
I could be wrong.
I don't remember. Either way, it's very much proving how forgettable it is.
So we definitely did. Undead. Battlecry for friendly undead dead after your last turn. Summon 2/3/2 zombies. We have talked about it because now I remember 3 mana 9/6.
Right.
Card sucks. Don't play it. Next up, we have Harkener of Dread. 5 mana 2/2 taunt. Death Rattle summon a 6/6 undead with taunt.
We've seen what happened to Shaman this expansion. My God, we've seen Harkener of Dread multiple times. It's never been good.
Yeah.
Or at least iterations of it. But like, oh my God, poor Thrall. Please, like if Rockgill is your best card this expansion,
things must have gone wrong.
That's gonna hurt. Yeah. Like we need to see some more. There's 4 more cards for Shaman, but it's not looking great.
I think there's one class worse than Shaman. Like we'll get to it.
Oh, okay, sure. That's not a real class in our format anyway, right?
That's true.
Spoiler alert, he's not talking about Warlock. So as we move into Warlock, they are getting discard synergy support as one of their packages that we've seen. So discard Warlock might be the new Evenlock Secret Mage alongside of something like Aggro Paladin, something that just gets like 6 new cards, and then we play the deck again for a week and then forget about it. Classic wild. So let's start with Amorphous Slime. 5 mana 3/3 epic minion. 5 mana 5/3. Sorry, excuse me. Battlecry. Discard a random undead. Death Rattle. summon a copy of it. So for context, some of the other minions that we're going to talk about today that have discard support are undead minions. So there's going to be a significant amount of overlap. So in order to evaluate Amorphous Slime, I'm just going to talk really quickly about Savage Ymir, 5 mana 7/7 rush, Battlecry, discard 2 cards. Important thing, it's an undead minion. So the assumption is, right, you're going to do something like play Amorphous Slime, discard the Savage Ymir, and it's not going to be that big of a downside of getting rid of your big booty because it'll die and you get the 7/7, right?
Yeah, but here's the thing, like, you can also just on turn 5 play the Savage Ymir, and then it's in play immediately instead of like the whole problem with Shaman this right now is all the death rattle stuff happening. You don't want to wait for death rattles, especially for something that's like super proactive and about buying initiative, like a rush card that's overstated because you're discarding stuff. Like you want to play that from hand, not because you are hoping for big payoffs. That's just like with Fist of Jaraxxus or Silverware Golem, but because like that's how discard play. Like those are nice bonuses, but that's just how discard plays. It's like the ultimate tutorial in tempo versus hand advantage, right? Like you're sacrificing your hand for the sake of tempo at an extreme level, and like just play the card from hand.
Yeah, I feel like the meme when it comes to slime, where you see it and it's like, is this an unnerved possessed lackey? Because if you kind of squint, you can see it with some of like the 9-drops that we have in the neutral pool. But I mean, is that gonna cut it in modern Hearthstone? I don't know. I don't think cheating out like a 9-drop. It's like Roffle said, it's so slow. Everyone complains that Void Call is too slow. I don't know if possessed lackey that discards the card is gonna cut it either.
Yeah, it's also like if you're playing this in a discard shell too, then you're playing a 9-drop in your discard shell, which.
Well, like I don't think it's a discard card.
Yeah. If you were playing it in a discard shell,
right?
Don't play it in your discard shell. Don't play this card at all. I think is the moral.
Probably
of this.
don't. No. Yeah, I think don't. You can maybe consider a Savage Ymir though. Like that's worth considering depending on how many like from hand discard payoffs there end up being, but it's still not a Doom Guard, so probably not.
No,
and
it's not.
Neither is it and you're already just kind of close enough with a Nightshade Matriarch. Like, so I think it's just a worse version of both of those. Agreed. And I think you just pass on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate Ymir.
You have to get it in there. I know you did. Important note though, we haven't seen either of the 2 legendaries for Warlock yet, and so we might get some like super powerful, expensive like undead minion that has like a downside, like a really big downside is its battle cry, and then you cheat it into play using this. So like maybe there's something there with some unrevealed cards, but as we are stating now, Slime not good enough. Ymir kind of just worse. Doomguard worse. Matron. So next up, Soul Barrage, 5 mana shadow spell. When you play or discard this, deal 6 damage randomly split among all enemies. So now we have 2 Soul Barrages and we have 2 Fist of Jaraxxuses to go alongside our 2 Soulfires. Discord Warlock is actually going to have a ton of from hand damage. Like, especially like if you copy this with the 2/1.
Expired.
Yeah, Expired Merchant. It's a lot of damage. It does a lot.
Yeah, and I've very recently played Discard Warlock, and it was an incredibly miserable experience. But part of that is that just like if the opponent gets any semblance of a board, you lose that game. Like if they get ahead for a turn, it's pretty much game over. And the fact that this can like pick off small minions, which is what like historically, Discard Warlock has really struggled with. That's why it's real bad into Secret Mage right now. Like this could solve some of that. I think this with Expired Merchant is also like a good look too, because it is very high cost. It's probably, your second highest cost card. It's not unreasonable that you would hit that often, and then not only do you get a lot of damage, but you get a lot of discard protection in hand, and feel pretty good about that. So, yeah, this is the reason you play Discard Warlock if you're playing Discard Warlock this expansion. This card right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, this card's disgusting. Like, absolutely feel it. The fact that it just cleans up minions or just like free face damage in the slower matchups. Like, if you hit this up and expired against something like Reno Priest, they're gonna die. Like, I don't give a shit how much removal and healing they will die. And so yeah, that's just absolutely huge for this archetype.
Yeah. So big plus for Soul Barrage. Next up, we have Scourge Supplies. 3 mana, draw 3. Choose 1 to discard. So obviously we have Hand of Gul'dan, right? Discard it, draw 3 cards. So I guess the question is, do we want more redundancy in our card draw to Malcolm and Hand of Gul'dan? That's kind of just the general question, because it is still 3 mana, draw 3.
No, I think it's just a good card in general. I don't think you play it in Discard Warlock because it's not generating new tempo, but you consider it playing it in like slow control Warlocks, right? Like, it's maybe a second copy of Backfire in like a Reno deck if you want to consider it that way. Like, I don't think the downside of Backfire is really that concerning in most cases. But in some emergency cases with Scourge Supplies, I don't think the downside of just like giving up a tour guide or something is that big of a deal either. So there are some situations as well where you have to just dump cards in order to draw the 3 anyway. So like, why not just like not pay the mana to dump it is basically what Scourge Supplies allows you to do. So I think it's an okay, like, just as 3 mana, draw 3. I don't think it needs to be in a discard deck. I don't think it even really wants to be in a discard deck, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't really like the idea of it in Disco Lock. I like the idea of it more in the other decks that Roffle's talking about, but I'm still not like into this card very much.
Right. It's still just a worse Backfire in a lot of cases, right?
Yeah, like it's people think, oh my god, it's just like better Arcane Intellect. But class identity matters a lot, and like card draw in Warlock is worth a lot less than card draw in Mage, because that beautiful little broken hero power, life tap to 3. And so for that reason, I just don't really see it being better. Like I don't know, Backfire itself can often feel a little underwhelming, I think, and I think this is worse. So I'm not super into it.
Yeah. All right. Last but not least, we have The Walking Dead. They did this on purpose. 3 mana, 2/5 undead minion with taunt. If you discard this minion, summon it. So now you have 4 silverware golems. This one has taunt. I think the more effects of cards that do things when you discard them, so that you gain tempo when you do the thing that gains you a lot of tempo anyways, you get even more tempo. And tempo is king. Tempo is good. I think this card is strong.
Yeah, there is some amount, like, it's a better Silverware Golem, first of all. So like, yeah, you run the card and discard Warlock, but like there is some like push and pull between, like, if you just have a handful of things that want to be discarded but no cards that actually discard, you're kind of stuck. So like, it's not just more things that want to be discarded more gooder. It's like you still need to find the right mix between the two so that you can reliably like actually discard them. So that's something to consider, is that like, if we look at the cards that we got this expansion, we got probably two new things that want to be discarded, but no real cards that discard. So that's like something to keep in mind. Like, you still have to have the cards that discard, and you still have to draw them.
Well, can I interest you in just hard running Tome Tampering? Just like 3 mana, discard your card, like hand, summon 2 minions, draw 3 cards, put more value into your deck. Like, it's honestly, like, even without like the synergy with Malcolm, just kind of seems good in Discard Warlock.
Yeah, sure. I'm into it. Like, maybe like with the density. No, probably not. But like, I think Tome Tampering is a legitimate consideration, especially just because of Soul Barrage, and then it turns into 1 mana, deal 6. Like, you have Hand of Gul'dan's in that hand, and like you said, you don't really need the Malkazar's imp. You just let it go, and you get a lot of tempo in as a result.
Yeah, Scourge and the minions, like the fact that it has Taunt, it's huge for the idea of Tome in an aggro disco lock. It's because you're not going to be like lagging and get hit in the face, so that's really great. Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited to play Tiny Knight on 2, and then turn 3 play Tome Tampering in my aggro deck. It's gonna be great.
Ooh, 2 mana 9 attack. Bop him. I'm down. God, Tiny Knight, I haven't heard his voice lines in so long. So good. All right, now you have me excited. And then I'm gonna look at Warrior, and I'm gonna get all that excitement sucked away because God, these cards are something.
Oh, they're Warrior cards, all right.
Well,
They are Warrior cards.
This one is very aptly named Asphodon, the Grand Shield. 3 mana, 3/3, battle cry, cast a copy of the last spell your opponent played. Legendary minion, by the way.
Togwaggle Warrior? No? Okay.
What happens when they go ransom spell?
That is a great question, man.
What happens when you play Togwaggle in your warrior deck? You kind of just die.
No, you have to play Togwaggle and Lotheb on the same turn so that they can only play the ransom spell.
Next card.
All right, I'm down.
Yeah.
Disruptive Spellbreaker. 5 mana, 4/5. At the end of your turn, your opponent discards a spell. So the 10 Odd Warrior fans out there, boom, you got a new toy. I don't know why you're still an Odd Warrior fan, but boom, you got a new toy.
You know, I actually love this card because I love making people discard, but it's so bad. It's 5 mana for a 4/5, and then it just immediately dies. But they can't use that spell you just discarded to kill it. Got great synergy with the Drukari Enchanter. I actually do like this card, because I do I want more things to discard cards from my opponent's hand is the reality of it. I love Ghastly Gravedigger, and I will not stop loving that card. But yeah, this card is bad, but at least it's interesting, in my opinion. Here's another one last thought. You play Togwaggle and this on the same turn. It discards the ransom. There you go.
This is even bigger brain than your Lotheb idea. I'm down.
I know. There's your Togwaggle Warrior.
Oh my god. Yeah. I mean, it's fine. It's solid. It's just it doesn't have the support. If I was playing this in Reno Priest, that seems fine. But Warrior's not Priest. You don't have the shell for this. I mean, the fact that it goes off every turn is kind of disgusting. This isn't a one-time thing. This is a must clear or very, very bad things start happening. It's just, yeah, we're talking about Reno Warrior or Odd Warrior type decks, and those decks are very, very dead.
Yeah. Well, you say dead, but they have fans, and those fans are going to enjoy playing this card. So, this goes out to all 10 of you guys. Last but not least, we have Last Stand. Draw a taunt minion, gain double its stats, but it's attached to a 4 mana spell. We've talked ad nauseum on the podcast about how the Taunt Warrior deck in Wild wants to be low to the ground. So this is not going in your Taunt Warrior deck because it is a 4 mana spell. The question now becomes, is there a combo-y style thing that we can do with doubling the stats of this taunt minion that we're drawing?
No. I mean, Witchwood Grizzly fans?
6 mana, 24. 6/24. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if that's the best thing you can do with this card, then it's a warrior card.
It's a warrior card. I don't know why this is for. I mean, I don't know. What's the druid one? There's the druid draw a beast, double its health. Well, that card was super strong. We all remember how powerful that was.
That was also 4 mana, by the way.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you go Last Stand into coin Silver Fury Stalwart, right? That's the dream.
Yeah. Yeah, that does seem, 6 mana, 8/16, can't be targeted. I mean, yeah, it's great. But you spent 4 mana drawing a card, so...
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. To be fair, we have seen 5 out of the 10 Warrior cards, so there's still a chance that Warrior gets something playable.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Surely. All right, so let's move into the neutrals. Got all the neutrals revealed, so we got a bit to go through. As we get to some of the less interesting ones, we'll probably just kind of skip over them, read it out loud, say next, sort of thing. But we're gonna start with the legendaries because legendaries are cool. And we're gonna start with Astalor Bloodsworn, 2 mana, 2/2, Battle Cry, add Astalor the Protector to your hand. Astalor Bloodsworn also has Mana Thirst 4, deal 2 damage. So on turn 2, it is a 2 mana 2/2. After turn 4, it's a 2 mana 2/2 that deals 2. Alright, bear with me because this is kind of like a Pyro style card. There's a bunch of stages to it. Next up we have Astalor the Protector. 5 mana 5/5. Battlecry, add Astalor the Flamebringer to your hand. But Astalor the Protector, Mana Thirst 7, you gain 5 armor. So on turn 5, it is a 5/5. After turn 7, it's a 5 mana 5/5, gain 5. Both of these cards on their own are trash. So you're kind of building it to this 8 mana 8/8, Astalor the Flamebringer. So Astalor is 8 mana 8/8, Battlecry, deal 8, randomly split among all enemies. So it's like a OG Cthulhu style effect. Mana Thirst 10. So once you get to 10 mana, it is now an 8 mana 8/8, deals 16 damage, randomly split among all enemies. You do all of this work, and your payoff is an 8 mana 8/8 that deals 16.
Your payoff is also a lot of value along the way for a Reno deck. I think you just consider like slotting this in.
It's really crappy value though. Like it's 2 mana 2/2 and a 5 mana 5/5.
It's a 2 mana 2/2 that deals 2. Like it's your
situational.
If we're talking, I know, but like if you're talking about a Reno deck, you're not often playing just like minions on curve anyway, because that's like what you're often playing from a reactive standpoint. So I feel like the first instance, is reasonable. Second one buys you time to get to the last one. Like I don't think it is just get to the last one and that's your payoff. I think the intermediate steps are like I think they're like the quest line, right? Like I think underestimating the intermediate steps is maybe a mistake here. I think this card is just good value for most Reno decks.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to slot into every like Reno Renafal deck, but just being like a generic win condition, I can definitely see it in things like Reno Shaman, where not just like the doubling up on the battle cry, but just like filling out your curve with cards, having limited card draw in like an archetype like that, just having stuff to do is good. Having like the armor on the 5-drop is good. It's not like nothing to sneeze at, that amount of armor. So whether it's like Reno Shaman, I can't imagine something like Druid will play it, but even then, you can get above 10 mana pretty easily. And we were told that the Bran Mana Thirst thing wouldn't work, but that seems to be not how it actually played out when people did it. Like, it seemed like when you would Bran and play the 10-drop, it would deal 32. Which is not what we were, told on Twitter originally, I think. So
well, I guess it's because the Mana Thirst says change the battle cry to deal 16.
Yeah,
deal 8.
but there was definitely some confusion about that. But that makes it more interesting in Druid as well.
That could be wrong though. Just, early builds might not have the correct intention. So I think we should take their word for it more than how it played.
The word from what I remember was a little confused. It was I'm pretty sure it's this.
That's the only reason why I have the hesitation alongside you. But yeah, we'll wait and see. I think it's a fine card either way.
Yeah.
I'm still so hesitant. It just seems. I mean, I think the questline comparison is accurate though. I think that's a fair comparison. I underestimated questlines like many others. Just kind of the intermediate steps do matter. It's just the intermediate steps are just so fair, right? I wouldn't really play a 2 mana 2/2 that deals 2 after turn 4, but I guess this is also giving you the 5/5 and the 8/8 and things like that.
Right, exactly. So, would you do a 2 mana 2/2 that deals 2 and draws you a card?
Yeah, I guess. Even if that card's trash and not a card for my deck, but
right.
I don't know. Maybe I am underestimating it. It feels very underwhelming to me. Maybe it's because we've also kind of seen this mechanic before with stuff like Pyros, and so that part's not super interesting to me. But it is a battle cry. Obviously, it makes it a lot better than something like Pyros. Okay. That being said, let's get to the exciting card, because there has to be a way that we can abuse this and break it, right? Surely, if there's a way in Wild, somebody will find it. 6 mana 6/6, Bone Lord Frost Whisper. Legendary Death Rattle. For the rest of the game, your first card each turn cost 0. You die in 3 turns. This is like a Mechathune style. You die in 3 turns, even if you have something like Ice Block. Yeah, 0 mana cards. What can we do with it?
Kael'thas. Get a 0 mana Kael'thas in, and then no, because like that's the same as just playing him on turn 7 anyway. I mean minion Kael'thas, but like that didn't prove to be very good. So you treachery it over to your opponent. It's their problem now.
It's a good what is the immolate, right? That like blows up the opponent's hand, except this blows up the opponent's hero very slowly.
I mean, yeah. It does also get rid of their hand because you have to like survive the onslaught of them generating tempo, for 3 turns. You pray they do not run into Nathrius. I'm sure there's something that you can do on your side as well, because 0 mana is not any mana at all, and that's always pretty spooky. So if you can like make your opponent's hero explode, with this, it's not a battle cry though. That's the big problem. Like having it activate that's going to be rough.
It's not a battle cry for a reason, because if it was a battle cry, then at the end of your turn that would count as one of your 3.
Yeah,
and you wouldn't be able to play a 0 mana card. So that makes sense why it's a death rattle. But.
No, I get it, but that does make it significantly worse for doing anything offensive. I'm not seeing anything, but maybe there's something there. It's certainly one to keep an eye on, and at worst, we just treachery it over.
I'm doubtful, but it's also like such a, there's so much potential.
Yeah.
I think in Mage, like, even like Mizaki Mage though, like, are you willing to pay 6/6/6? And just like the effect doesn't even guarantee trigger. It's
right. It also turns off your Tyrion as a way to draw Mizaki
or Talon.
Talon, yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
So, so I feel like that makes it a little bit disqualifying on its own.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't think of anything that would make this super crazy, but for the future, like if you play this, you have to be OTKing on like turn 7.
Yeah,
it's the thing. So yeah,
like play this on 6.
So it has
turn 7 somehow kill something and Malagos. Right?
Yeah, like that's the game. And that's the problem, right? Because like you said, not a battle cry makes this so much more difficult.
Yeah. All right, all of you guys that are listening, let us know how you intend to break Frost Whisper, because I'm sure that there is a way out there. I know that I'm gonna be treacherying it. Roffle brought that up. I'm gonna be doing that with some Halfiends, and you said making opponents discard things. I'll be just making them die. So excited about that.
Why even muddy the waters with Halfiend? Like, just let them die to the Frost Whisper.
But what if they Theo this with their 6 mana Theo?
Then they play it. It's their problem now.
All right, fair enough. All right. Let's move into the epics here. We have Enchanter, 3 mana, 3/3. Enemy minions take double damage during your turn. Interesting card. Very, very much feels like Moarg Artificer-esque, but for 3 mana, one-sided. And it's not just from spells; it's from like everything, like combat damage as well. This is the card that's going to make Lifesteal Demon Hunter OTK a real thing in Wild, right? Yeah?
No, I think it's more just like I think if you're playing it, it's for the board presence. Like, if you just want to chop through your opponent's minions with like an odd paladin or something, but I don't think it's good enough to include in that type of deck just naturally.
I'm going to dust these.
Seems like a good arena card.
Seems like a busted arena card, actually.
Yeah. Getting to trade up in arena is huge.
Yeah, exactly. Crystal Broker, 3 mana, 3/2 epic. This is a 5 mana card because it does nothing at 3 mana. It's just a 3 mana, 3/2. Once you get to 5 mana, it's a 3 mana, 3/2 summon a random 3-cost minion. At 10 mana, it's a 3 mana, 3/2 that summons an 8-cost minion. This does nothing on turn 3. This is a 3 mana, 3/2. It doesn't even summon a 1-cost. Like,
what did we say about tempo?
Tempo good.
Oh, that's gonna be rough for this card then.
Yeah. All right. Anyways, Sanctum Spellbinder, 4 mana, 3/6. Whenever your opponent targets another minion with a spell, redirect it to this. Interesting card. Kind of, you play this alongside important pieces so that it protects your other pieces from like removal. Is kind of the idea, but it's a 4 mana 3/6.
Oh my god, my Boon Priest. Oh no.
Oh, yeah. It's not just one of your minions. It's any minion with a spell. They printed this to counter Boom Priest in Standard, right?
No, they counted this to counter my delicious Crab Rider. Skip. Like I'm not saying this.
I don't see play. I don't think that's worth like. That's not a deck that people are going to tech around. In a while.
If you want to tech for Crab Rider Paladin, this is your tool, I guess. Or just like hard run Hungry Crabs. Boom, there you go. Hawkstrider Rancher, 3 mana 2/5. After you play a minion, give it +1/+1, and Death Rattle. Summon a 1/1 Hawkstrider. 3 mana 2/5 Hobgoblin. Basically, is what this is. For those of you guys that don't remember Hobgoblin, it was a 2/3 that gave all your one attack or one cost minions +2/+2. This seems good if you're doing like the Magic Carpet go wide style of thing with low cost cards. Like I'm even thinking about like Cute Lock. I know we don't want to go above 2 in Cute Lock, but this sounds kind of nutty with like 0 cost cards.
Yeah, it's very hard to remove, right? Like 2/5 is sticky, with no impact on the board immediately, but that's fine because, well, I don't know if it is fine. Like Hobgoblin got cut. This is better than Hobgoblin, but I'm not sure how Cute Lock goes. And like the resiliency of the board is great. Passing turn 1 and 2 is less great. Not sure.
I feel like I'm the only one that's like really skeptical of this card, and other than just now with Corb, with a little bit of skepticism there at the end, but I feel like it's being quite a bit overrated. Like, I don't know, in that type of deck with the Hobgoblin, I would rather have those stats now than have sticky stats most of the time. I would also I would like to have the body better and a little bit more flexibility because you can't play a Hobgoblin with 0 mana minions anyway, right? Or is it 1 attack?
I think it's
I forget how.
I don't even remember. It's been that long since I played a Hobgoblin.
I don't know either. Yeah. So either way, you have there is less restriction here, but like Hobgoblin hasn't really seen play for good reason in those type of decks for quite a while. So I don't know. I think people are overvaluing what this card does when, like, especially in like a Cute Lock, you just play the 1 mana buff spells, and like you get to kill them that way.
All right,
that seems faster.
Can I ask you a question? How does this work with something like Undertaker in the Undertaker Druid that you guys were talking about? Like if you have an Undertaker on board, you play this, and then you give a minion Death Rattle.
It will not buff.
Right, I think Undertaker is summon, so you're not summoning the minion with the Death Rattle, you're giving it the Death Rattle afterwards.
Yeah, I'm coming down. I'm going to Roffles. I'm hanging out with Roffle on this card. It doesn't seem very good.
Leaving me over here. I don't want to be over here by myself. I also have been changed. My mind's been changed. Damn.
It feels like bait to me. Like legitimate.
It does
like,
a lot though, right?
It does, yeah, but none of those things kill the opponent as quickly as the things that we have available already is my concern.
Sure. I can see that. All right. Next up we have Plague Spreader. Very very fitting post-COVID world. 4 mana 4/4 undead. Plague Spreader says Death Rattle. Transform a random minion in your opponent's hand into Plague Spreader. Death Rattle. And then your opponent has to play it. And then we're moving on to rares. Translocation Instructor. 5 mana 4/4 Battlecry. Choose an enemy minion. Swap it with a random one in their deck.
Soul Seeker, but theirs. Like we've seen this card before.
We've seen so much weird disruption.
Yeah. I like it. I like disruption.
Yeah, but none of these play.
No, but like it pads my tech shaman so well. Like I I would run 60 cards in that deck at this point. No, this is not good. The good news is
the purpose of these cards.
So here's what you do. Your opponent
Okay.
cheats out an Epsilon on turn 4 because they only had palm rating ×2 instead of the usual illuminate into Shadow Essence. You target their hand with Translocation Instructor, send it back into their deck, hit an Epsilon, boom, you're dead next turn.
So you get out of the game faster?
Exactly.
Smart.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
I see no reasonable use for this other than like it's like soft neutral single target removal, but coming at a pace that's way too slow for wild is really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Like it's not. I don't think it's all bad because like you know if your opponent drops a big bomb that you can't deal with, like maybe you're close to lethal. Their Denathrius didn't quite do enough. You need that lifesteal off the board. Deal with it next turn. It's just happening way too slow is the problem.
Maybe this counters the Warrior Witchwood Grizzly. That's it.
And we're talking about warriors. So no, I'm just kidding. It seems like the idea isn't in standard. Like you're gonna put a bunch of death rattles on the board. Or you're gonna like buff paladin cards with these buffs. Can't deal with it, so then you like swap it back, pull out one of the cheap minions from their deck. I believe is the idea, but again, Corb started talking about warriors. So we're moving on to corner 2-mana 2/2 Battlecry, freeze an enemy minion. We've seen a card like this. We've got Glacial Shard. We've got stuff like Burlock, but it has Mana Thirst 6. So if you play this 2-mana card past 6 mana, you will silence the minion and then freeze it.
I think you would just if you need freeze, you would just lean towards Glacial Shard because it can go face. Like the fact that it costs 1 less mana and can't go face is like a bigger deal than being able to silence, as things stand right now. But like the flexibility of this card is kind of interesting. I just don't know if it's worth.
Yeah, I just don't think the like Mana Thirst is actually flexibility when it's like play it post 6 or 7 mana in our format. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but it just feels like a lot of these cards are unplayable, including corner. So let's move on to Infectious Ghoul. 5 mana, 5/4 undead. Death Rattle, give a friendly minion Death Rattle, summon an Infectious Ghoul. It's just Greybow, but it's
Greybow, but
without
worse.
taunt. It took me a while to read that and understand it, but it's just Greybow.
Yeah, it's Greybow, but worse because it doesn't have taunt. So,
yeah.
Guys, Umbra. Come on, guys.
I understand that,
Oh.
but like
This
it's
doesn't
still
work,
not
right?
great.
You go Umbra into this, it doesn't trigger the Umbra, and so you have to have another minion. And it has to,
No, it just adds the Death Rattle onto Umbra.
Unless you have another minion on board. Yeah.
no, Umbra says whenever you
No.
summon, right? So it's not even going to trigger with Umbra. It was
No,
the whole thing that we
what-
just went through with
No, it's when you play Umbra, you play the Infectious Ghoul. You summon the Infectious Ghoul. The Ghoul's Death Rattle will go onto Umbra, but you won't get a new
you don't
minion.
summon the thing. Infectious Ghoul doesn't summon
No,
another
you
minion on
summon
its own.
you summon the Infectious Ghoul. It doesn't summon another minion, but it gives the Death Rattle to Umbra. So when she dies, you summon an Infectious Ghoul. That's all it does.
Yeah, it doesn't work like Corb wants it to. I think it's our we're coming to the same conclusion.
No, right. But like, yeah, what it does is it makes both minions sort of sticky, but not useful.
Woo. That's strong.
Use it with the corpses in Death Knight.
No.
There you go.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's not even though. Unlucky. All right, Flesh Behemoth, 9 mana, 4/8 undead taunt. Death Rattle, draw another undead, summon a copy of it. We haven't really seen huge undead minions, right?
I mean, this is the Possessed Lackey Warlock card that I was talking about.
Yeah.
Like, this is the payoff, but this ain't a
Yikes.
Void Lord.
Yeah.
That's
Yikes.
the-
Yeah, this is your payoff. All right.
Yeah, you need.
Banshee, 1 mana, 2/1 undead. Death Rattle, give a friendly undead, +2/+1.
Now we're
Undertaker.
talking.
There
Yeah.
we go. Yeah.
Now we're talking. Because it's good with the Undertaker. We've talked a lot about like needing those early for both Death Knight and Druid needing those early undead. So here it is. This is good.
All right.
I kind of think it sucks actually. If, outside just the Undertaker, like I think if you lean like right into that, then it's fine. But I think it's just like a splashable minion. I really don't love it that much. But yeah, I don't know. Like 1 mana Death Rattle cards.
Yeah,
Gonna be hard.
if you're building around an undead, you play this card.
Yeah.
Which
Undead
would-
aggro likes
or,
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Undead aggro likes it. Nothing else really does. Sorry to cut you off there, Roffle.
No, that's essentially what I was going to say.
Cool. Okay. All right. Let's move into commons. We're almost done, guys, with a 2-hour review, I promise. Silvermoon Arcanist, 3 mana, 2/2. Spell damage +2. Battle Cry. Your spells can't target heroes this turn. Well, it's a cheaper evolved Kobold, except you can't target the opponent, but you can do stuff like missiles and Cinderstorm and help me, please. Somebody please stop me. Tell me this card's trash.
It's trash.
Trash.
Okay. Amber Whelp, 3 mana, 3/3 dragon. Battle Cry. If you're holding a dragon, deal 3 damage. Card's less trash, right? It's Scale Rider, but good because it's also a dragon and it deals 3 instead of 2. So if you're playing that mid-rangey dragon deck, this is probably good enough in that deck. Question mark? Maybe.
I mean,
Here we
it's
go.
hurting. It's hurting for low curve dragons, so maybe you consider it.
This is like we're 1/20th of the way to Dragon Warriors comeback. I'm ready.
No, we're talking about Dragon Paladin. What are you talking about? But
Oh.
we're talking
Alright.
about real classes that exist in Hearthstone, Corb.
Yeah. Real decks here.
God. I was just gonna say Dragon Druid, but maybe we don't even need it in there.
Oh, maybe. Wait. Can you play this and just like Reno Druid? Can you make more dragons? Can you lean on this in Dragon Druid?
Maybe.
And make that Breath of
Makes
Dreams.
Make breath more consistent. Like you get up to like 6 dragons total. Like, that's not awful.
Did Meowth actually have a smart idea for once? Let's go.
Popping off.
All right, one-time thing for the 2-hour episode. Let's go. Next up, we have Bloodied Knight, 3 mana, 4/5. At the end of your turn, deal 2 damage to your hero. Silvermoon Armor, 4 mana, 4/4 with the rush. Whoa, we're going back.
I like overstated minions in odd decks. Like
It's
that seems
barely
okay.
overstated with no other. Unless your synergy is caring about
That's
the
a
dealing 2
coin
damage,
Yeti
there's
right
no
there.
way this card's good, right?
We've seen this card in Warlock and it was not ever played.
Yeah, we had Never Set Thrasher, right? The 3 mana, 4/5. Whenever it attacks,
Yeah, and I
deals damage.
overrated it then too. So at least I'm consistent. What do you want me to do?
No, that's-
Also, I'm pretty sure that dealt 3 damage, and we didn't have Renethal at the time. So like,
Not bad.
I think the card's fine. It's just not.
Raffle, this
quite
card's
good
bad.
enough
You're
to-
not putting it in any of your wild decks. Stop it.
You're okay if we talk for more than 2 seconds about Foul Egg, then we're gonna.
I'm ready. I'm ready with the foul egg. Oh, here we go.
All right, fine. Let's talk about Foul Egg. 1 mana, 0/2. Undead. Death Rattle. Summon a 3/3 Undead Chicken. Nerubian Egg, but 1 mana less. Corb, take it away.
I like it. I like it a lot. I look, 1 mana Death Rattle. It's cracked. Like we've already established, Undertaker Druid is going to be the best deck in the meta.
Cracked an egg. I see what you did there. Props.
Oh, yeah, totally intentional. But also, I actually just love this in Paladin. I think I think there's 2 ways to build aggro Paladin in the upcoming. I think you either build it like Secrets and with like the Liadrin and you make that, or you just do some egg stuff as well. Like the similar package, but you like swap out 6 cards, add an egg package. Because we've got a whole bunch of really good buffs, and we also have Great Hall. And Great Hall becomes very consistent if you have Foul Egg and Nerubian. The curve actually kind of works out with Call to Arms like super well, where if you play this on 1, then you have Great Hall, then you get to play it again on the Call to Arms turn, like the location. So that way, if you do get an egg, you get to buff it immediately. So that's cool. I just think it's like solid, like particularly in Paladin is where I'm most excited. So yeah, I'm into this one.
You ever throw Dunbaldar Bridge into that deck if you're doing the egg shenanigans?
I don't think so. Like I think like even Paladin feels like it can get away with delaying the Call to Arms a turn, whereas I think like most aggro Paladins feel like they have to just kind of jam it. I don't know though. Maybe you can bridge it.
Yeah, I'm still not sold on this, to be honest with you. But I think we've seen eggs. We've been disappointed by them so many times before, and I'm not gonna let.
Never had an egg like this for 1 mana. Great haul.
I know. Yeah.
So many stats.
So many eggs, though. So many eggs.
All right. Next up, we have Silver Moon Armor. 4 mana, 4/4 Rush. Mana Thirst 7. Game +2/+2. It's an arena card. Shatterskin Gargoyle. 6 mana, 4/6 Undead Taunt. Death Rattle. Deal 4 damage to an enemy minion. Also an arena card. Brittleskin Zombie. 3 mana, 4/3 Undead. Death Rattle. If it's your opponent's turn, deal 3 damage to them. Seems like another arena card.
Seems like a card that we've seen before. Like, wasn't there an expansion where that type of effect was popular?
Yeah, that was like KFT. It was like,
Yeah, it was KF.
So we also have like Mountain Fire Armor, right? Where like if this dies on your opponent's turn, gain armor.
Yeah, that's the same thing. That was from Knights of the
We also
Crimson
had-
Throne as well.
We also had the priest one that was unconditional.
3 mana, 4/3 deal 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Like I said, cards, arena card. We don't care about it. Umbral Geist. 2 mana, 3/1 Undead. Death Rattle. Add a random shadow spell to your hand. So I actually think this one potentially interesting if you're looking at some of the classes that don't normally have shadow spells but have gotten like 1 or 2, right? And if that shadow spell ends up being interesting, right?
Oh,
Like,
Well, it's any. Yeah, it's
it
not
won't be
narrow.
restricted.
It's not a discover. It's a generate. So it'll be whatever.
arena card. Yeah. Meowth learns to read. Live on podcast. Next up, we have Arms Dealer. 1 mana, 1/2 Undead. After you summon an undead, give it +1 attack. In your Undertaker aggro paladin.
You have to be pretty desperate for undead for this to be a consideration, I think.
That 1 mana 1/1 that summons a 1/1 that summons a 1/1 now it becomes a 1 mana 1/1 that summons a 2/1 that summons a 2/1.
Arms Dealer can be a 1/3, and we can have a conversation. As a 1/2, like, nah.
The
it's not
1/2
happening.
is real bad. Like, it's so fragile.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we have Incorporeal Corporal. Say that 5 times fast.
Incorporeal.
Incorporeal Corporal. Boom.
Yes.
There we go.
Yep.
2 mana 5/5 Undead. After this minion attacks, destroy it. Drakari Embalmer. 3 mana 3/4.
Silence Priest.
Yeah.
But, like, then you're playing Silence Priest.
I mean, I can see this cutscene playing standard. I don't know if the archetypes translate over, but something like Big Spell Mage, right? Where you're basically just playing it as it's kind of like almost like a Pelican Diver, but like something where you can just throw it out there, and if it doesn't have anything good to trade into, you can just sit. But it's like preloading a deal 5 onto the board for 2.
Yeah, that's
So, like,
actually...
It's not that bad, I think. Like, it's not great, but there might be archetypes that you can use this, I think. But yeah, it's almost a skip completely. But I just throw it out there because I can see it being alright in standard.
No,
maybe a couple things
I
translate.
told me on that. Because, like, either the... Like, at worst, it's 2 mana delayed deal 5 to something, right?
Mhm.
Like... either the opponent's going to like trade into it to remove it to prevent whatever something you're going to do, or they're going to just leave it and then you get to like immediately trade over their whatever. So I could see it. It's not going to be good and wild, but like I could see it actually seeing play.
Matt seems incredibly skeptical.
Would you not play 2 mana?
Just let me keep skipping to the next one.
Would you not play 2 mana deal 5 onto the board? Like you
In any deck.
in any deck, would you play 2 mana deal 5?
Yes.
That's what this card does
Kinda
a lot
like
of the time.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. Preloaded. Doesn't beat Taunt, but you know.
Yeah, taunt is
Preloaded.
the only consideration that like hurts this, but it's 2 mana deal 5.
I'm gonna remain so skeptical until I ever see it see play ever. We'll see. We'll see. All right. 3 mana 3/4 Undead Drakari Embalmer. Battlecry. Give a friendly I was gonna say unborn. Give a friendly undead reborn.
It's way too conditional
Yeah.
on so many pirates.
Yeah. These undead cards, we still have a lot to see when it comes to class cards, but they need some help is what I'm saying for this like undead tribe to actually be useful. Okay, next up we have Tenacious San Lane. I do not know how to pronounce that. We're going to go with it. 5 mana 4/6 undead with lifesteal. Whenever this attacks, deal 2 damage to the enemy hero. So it's a 5 mana 4/6 with lifesteal on its own. Whenever it attacks, you're minimum gaining 6.
No, you're not, because this card is never seen play in your deck.
Hey, if you're playing Heal Paladin.
Nope.
Okay. Nerubian Vizier. 3 mana 2/4 undead. Battlecry, discover a spell. If a friendly undead died after your last turn, it cost 2 less. All right, now is this one actually interesting? It's discovering a spell with potentially a discount if you're in that undead deck.
I think it's potentially interesting just in Death Knight in general. Like, this seems like just another Death Knight card. It was just an auto-include in every single deck for the show match. Because not only are you having undeads die pretty frequently in Death Knight, but the Discover is insanely powerful because you can get spells from other runes. And as we've talked about in a lot of cases, the pool of spells is very narrow, so you have a pretty good assessment of what you're going to get. So I think right now in any 40 card Death Knight list, you should probably just include this, unless you're playing an even deck, which is some 40 card anyway. But you probably just include this. You absolutely want it in like a Reno Death Knight to generate some extra value, and probably pretty reliably get the cost reduction going. So yeah, I think this is certainly the real deal for Death Knight at the very least. It gets a lot worse in other classes just because like the pool of discovery just opens up too dramatically.
Bad is it if you don't get the actual effect procced? Like 3 mana 2/4 discover a spell.
That's just fine, and like if you have the reasonable expectation that you're going to get a good spell. But like the problem is that
we play wild, right?
Right. In the other 10 classes, like that's not a reasonable expectation in a lot of cases, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is that this is a Death Knight card, right? This is like the 61st Death Knight card.
Yeah, but like I think you maybe do take a look at it in some, like, what if you're playing God, here we go again. What if you're playing in a Luna's Pocket Galaxy Mage where you don't have like the capacity to run? I know. But like, or if you're just playing like a minion forward Reno deck in general, it doesn't have to be LPG, but like that type of deck in general where you're reliant heavily on minions, you don't have the space, or you don't have, like, for some reason you have deck building restrictions that prevent you from any spells, yeah, you probably take a look at it just so that you can pick off early game minions.
All right.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just cracking up because it's like 3 times a podcast. It's like,
I know.
It's an LPG. It's so good.
Maybe it's also rule that we had, man. We should just
we can't help ourselves.
Yeah. What about it just like aggro druid if you're playing like an undead stuff? You're like,
yeah,
and it always triggers, like, or
right.
Not always, but you'll always have like undeads on board.
I think you probably consider it there, but there are a lot of really bad druid spells. Have you ever played the Convoke the Spirits?
No.
It'll remind you how bad a lot of.
I've not.
Yes, it will. It will very quickly remind you just how bad Druid has in terms of spells. Like there are a lot of things that you'll get a lot of whiffs with. This is the concern there. So a bad spell that costs 2 mana less is often still a bad spell.
Yeah. All right. Last but not least for our neutrals, and for today's card review, we have Virkul Necrolite, 2 mana 2/2 undead. Battlecry, give a friendly minion Death Rattle, summon a 2/2 zombie with Rush. I believe the zombie itself is also undead. And so I will tell you one card that it works really nicely with is that Shaman 1/3 that gets 2/2s zombies with Rush, and it seems like Shaman cares about undead stuff. Do you even play this, like, again, it doesn't buff your Undertaker, so I'm not sure where else you care about this, right?
It's an even Death Knight card.
Yes.
Oh, true. There you go.
And maybe you consider it in, no, probably not in an Undertaker, but like the Death Rattle that it gives is really nice. The way I see it working is like you have a fairly weak 1-drop that you give the Death Rattle to, you trade over it, and you immediately get a 2/2. If you're real far behind on board, you could then trade into an opponent's minion. Otherwise, like, you just get 2/2s on the board on turn 2. I think it's a fine card in some of those cases. I think it's absolutely nutty in a even Death Knight though. So
I still
slot
haven't,
it in.
yeah, I still haven't conditioned my brain to like think about Death Knight when evaluating cards. My mind's still getting used to it. All right,
I'm still getting used to Demon Hunter.
I still don't know any Demon Hunter cards because I didn't see play after like the first month and a half. So
That's
have,
part of it.
so all right, that's it. That's all the cards for today's review. 3 down, 1 to go. Next one hopefully should be a little bit shorter because we only have the missing class cards. But this expansion is looking, with the exception of Warrior and Shaman at the moment, looking pretty sweet. I don't know if that's just the rose tinted glasses of a new expansion as a content creator and somebody who plays a lot of Hearthstone. Expansion looks like it's sweet. Looks like it's got a lot of playable cards, as well as a brand new playable class.
Yeah,
It's looking... Go ahead.
I mean, I feel like people often fall into the trap of like underestimating an expansion for the wild format. This seems like it's going to be maybe like outside of Death Knight, a little bit behind what we saw with Castle Nathria, but I think that that's maybe fine for a change with a third expansion. You know, typically has been launching things a little bit forward. I'm fine with where the power level seems to be at. So sure, yeah. I mean, outside of the neutrals, which didn't seem terribly interesting, and outside of Warrior and Shaman, I think that like we at least got some things that are of interest. Like I really have wanted Outcast Demon Hunter to be a thing, but like it seemed like it was a somewhat parasitic mechanic for a while, and having that come back is really exciting. You know, we haven't seen all of the Demon Hunter cards yet, or at least you haven't. So like there's some, you know, interesting things are revealed already. I'm not super high on what we've seen out of Druid just yet, but like the Paladin cards are making me drool. So yeah, I think that there's like in certain classes, I think we are getting some really interesting stuff.
Yeah, I think the neutrals are in general, you know, not great. Again, we keep following this weird theme where we're just printing these bizarre disruption tools that are never ever going to see play, which is very strange. But the classes in general, like Roffle was saying, aside from Shaman and Warrior, they're all pretty hot. The expansion seems to be leaning, at least what we've seen so far, like quite aggressive. Whether we're seeing that from a number of things, and that actually suits Wild great. You know, like you're more likely to be able to push and splash in some aggro cards than a lot of the slow stuff in Wild. So with Disco Lock Paladin, things like that. It seems like I think this is probably going to be a bigger than average impact on Wild, which is kind of what you expect from the third expansion of the year as well.
Yeah,
But normally it's
yeah,
been the
because
middle expansion that's been like, or sorry, go ahead.
yeah, it's been
Sure.
it's been one or the other. But more recently, I think it's been the middle expansion. But yeah, I forgot where it's. Oh, I think it's probably good that maybe some of the neutrals suck, given that we've just like dealt with Theotar Renathal, Denathrius for quite a while. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but like the outcome is maybe the same, unless those 3 neutrals just remain like omnipresent. But I think that they've been, at least in Wild, a little bit less common than at the beginning of Castle Nathria for a variety of reasons.
That does, I guess, serve as a good segue because we did get some tweets Thursday, where, so this was post like Death Knight event, the little showcase event that they had, where kind of Denathrius was running all over the place, right? And people were like, wow, Denathrius is going to be kind of gross with Death Knight. It's going to kind of ruin this whole expansion. So obviously it was a very fake meta, right? Where everybody was playing Death Knight. So it was extremely biased. They said it was a very like greedy, control heavy format, just kind of by the nature of what they did. And so obviously Denathrius shines there. But that being said, they have a balanced patch planned for a couple weeks after the expansion, like they normally do. And Denathrius and Renathal are the 2 cards that are like on the radar that they will make changes to if they deem necessary. So just putting that out there into the universe that keep an eye on Denathrius and Renathal. Don't dust them if you happen to open another one somehow. I don't think you can, but
yeah. The one thing I'd add on top of just like the metagame itself is like, of course, those cards are going to see play in a brand new class in Death Knight, like especially Denathrius, where like it doesn't even have a full set of cards available to it as a class, so it's going to need to pull from like the powerful neutrals, and on top of like Denathrius lining up with what Death Knight specifically does and its hero power, it was always going to be the case. So I mean, we talked about that, like the hero power improving the quality of infused cards, so it's not a surprise. I understand why people want some of those cards changed, but like I think they're fine and wild. I'm gonna go on record saying that I like them.
Yeah, I definitely agree. The event was super slated for this to happen, especially because they didn't like decks were locked in over the 2 days. I think if they had have given players the opportunity to like change decks for the second day, obviously keeping the same thing, we might have seen something different, and not seen every single person all trying to outgrade each other and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just wanted to put that out in the universe as things that they are keeping an eye on once the new expansion launches, obviously in addition to the Theotar nerf and the Ice Revenant nerf that are coming as well. But yeah, not going to talk much longer. We've been going for a long time. Appreciate you guys for tuning into the episode for 2 hours. Hope you guys enjoy the card review. Let us know your opinions, what we got right, what we got wrong, what you're excited for down in the comments. Roffle and Corb, thank you for hanging with me. One more to go, but appreciate you guys. Let the people know where they can find you and your content, especially going into new expansion.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitch and YouTube at Roffle, and content will be going up in both places.
And you can find me thinking about my top 5 most powerful cards that I'm gonna get 100% correct at twitch.tv/Corbett or Corbettgames on Twitter and YouTube.
Yep. All right, so we've got 2 more episodes of the podcast prior to the expansion launch, and next one we'll wrap up the card reviews. The next one after that will be our traditional our prediction episode, as well as a little bit of theory crafting, what we're excited about, the classic look back in 3 months and see what we got wrong and laugh at ourselves. So that's kind of the game plan. New expansion launches December 6th. Hope you guys are excited for the expansion just like we are. Appreciate you guys listening week after week, and we will see you guys again next time. Later.